Do you say debt is bad because for the average person, that is a good principle to live by? And with that, I kind of agree with you. However, if people do utilize debt in an effective way, such as Graham, he's very responsible, very well researched on, the markets and how he can leverage his money with debt. Do you think that that is a more effective way to grow fast if you're calculated with it?
It is a more effective way to grow fast if that's your goal. But what people leave out of the discussion is that you've increased your risk exponentially. More debt equals more risk, period. And so, after I went broke, I had to analyze and go, okay, what went wrong here? And because I had never lost money on a flip. I was not behind on the notes. They just called them. They had the ability to do that because it was commercial paper. It wasn't traditional mortgages. It was 90-day paper. And so what it amounted to was, I had proven track record of making money. I mean, I probably owned 2,000 pieces of real estate in my life. And so I was doing a lot of flips. And some of them I was doing in 24 hours. I would just buy them and flip them to another investor and make 10 grand and keep walking, that kind of stuff. So, but I was doing 100% financed. I didn't put any money in it, not a dime. I didn't have any money. So I talked a guy into giving me a 100% deal on this house. I flipped it. I made 10 grand. Hey, and I talked him into doing it again. Then I talked him into doing it again. Then I talked him into doing $1.2 million, and with that one bank. And so it set me up. And so after I crashed, I kind of had to go through a CSI, an autopsy. You go, okay, why did the patient die? So because everything I was taught, I grew up in the real estate business. And when you're in the real estate business as a profession, one of the rules is they take your risk meter out and they sit on the table and they break it. So you have no ability to perceive risk because everything's good, everything's going up, and it always works. And the mythology that just because something worked once, it's always going to work every time. So I had to go through kind of a healing of my heart in that regard and go, oh, wait a minute, this is risk. Wait a minute, OPM, other people's money. Yeah, it's kind of got that get-rich-quick slimy vibe to it, and all that. But there are people that more intelligently than that, use debt. And so there's a spectrum there. But even those are taking on risk. And so when you have, Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's skinny dipping. So when you stress test with an economic problem of some kind, outside variable or inside variable, inside your organization or your life, inside your portfolio, or the economy, like a quarantine type thing comes up, or inflation or recession, and you stress test your theories, you can tell who's skinny dipping when the tide goes out. And if your theories don't last. And so the only one I've ever found, and this comes back to my faith journeys where it started, the borrower slave to the lender, I can find nowhere in Scripture that debt was used to bless people. And so then I got to think, okay, do I believe that or do I believe my academic training? I've got a degree in finance, and I know how to run an IRR, and I know what the IRR looks like with debt and without debt. And it's not nearly as good unless you're leveraged. But you can run an IRR through the roof with leverage. Guess what's left out of the IRR calculation? There's no math inserted for risk. The IRR is agnostic to risk. It doesn't recognize it. And so while you see this great rate of return, there's zero risk showing up in there. The chance that you lose the thing, or the chance that the stress brings on your life, or what it does to your marriage, or what it does to your body to carry around the weight of that. None of that is parlayed into there. And real estate is unique in that way because other investment vehicles teach us to mathematically insert risk. For instance, two mutual funds, you would never compare an aggressive growth stock mutual fund with a growth in income, okay? And if you look at the chart, the growth in income is kind of like this, and the aggressive growth is like this, right? And that's the risk factor. And the highs and lows on that, y'all probably know this is called, for our audience at home, the rapid change is measured by a thing called a beta. And a beta is a statistical measure of risk. It's a math number. And so a beta of 1.0, for those at home, means that particular mutual fund is exactly what the stock market is. It's S&P. 500. It's doing what the stock market's doing. A beta of 2.0, it means it's twice as risky. So this is an aggressive growth, emerging market type stock fund portfolio. And so it's twice as risky as the market. So the way you would adjust for risk between a beta of a 0.8, which might be like a growth in income, versus a beta of 2.0, is you insert the beta in an inverse in the math formula and you adjust for risk so you can compare these two apples to apples, even though after risk, a post-risk analysis. We don't do that in real estate. No one ever talks about that in real estate. It doesn't even come up. And so but we have kind of a brain, and our brain says, oh, wait a minute, if I'm 110% leveraged in real estate, that's probably not good.
Where would you say the risk is, though, let's say on a 3% mortgage or an interest rate that's below inflation? Because from my perspective, it seems like there's less risk in having cash in the bank than tied up in a property that might not be as easily accessible. That in the event of a job loss or something happens, you'll have cash that you could easily access, versus in a property where it might be difficult to take out. Like if you need the money, like something comes up, and it exceeds your emergency fund, that maybe it's harder to tap into if that's your last case resort.
Well, the difference is, are we talking about the shortest path to bankruptcy or the shortest path to wealth? What you're describing is not going to lead you to bankruptcy. And so it's a nuanced argument at that point.
Okay.
And so because we're not talking about a get-rich-quick 100% portfolio, and you're just trying to use an inflationary number to offset your interest rates, and that doesn't play long term. But where you've got a high cash position, a high equity position, lower debt, well, guess what? Your risk is so low that that the debt represents that your beta would not be a 2.0,
sure.
It would be a 0.25. But there is still a risk that is there that is not there if a house is 100% paid for, the property is 100% paid for. Because then if your tenant doesn't pay because of pandemic, and by the way, you can't evict them because of a moratorium on evictions, and so you got zero cash coming in and nothing you can do about it. Or they go into Chapter 13, take 6 months to get them out. You got zero cash coming in and not squat you can do about it. And legally, I mean, you're going to get real criminal crap if you start messing with those things, right? Yeah. So you cannot. And so you're writing checks. I'm not. And I'm sitting here smiling and going, okay, we got a big pile of cash and we got all these buildings paid for, and we had entire segments of our revenue just evaporate with the quarantine. Like live events didn't exist, obviously, right? That kind of stuff. And we're going, this ain't good, because if this thing goes down into the red and we start burning that cash, what's our burn rate, and how long before we start, leadership doesn't take pay, and how long after that before we start having to furlough people or lay people off? And we're running those calculations during that short period of time that we were off. And but we did not have added to that the burn rate of the rent burning through the cash, or the payment on the buildings. I mean, can you imagine the payment on these buildings if I'd have been burning that cash during that? Holy crud!
Yeah.
But so one less thing to worry about, right? But it's a risk analysis, is what it is. And if you 100%, I run a 100% debt-free portfolio, and so I have zero pressure or virtually zero pressure to make that property inordinately perform in a stressful situation. So I make different decisions about tenants. I don't need a tenant, and so I don't get as many bad ones, because I'm willing to go, we'll sit here another month. If it takes another month to fill it, that's better than putting that bozo in there. He's going to change his Harley oil in the living room. I can feel it, You know what I'm talking about? And so, but I remember when I had payments on properties in my other life, and I'd be going, I got to make this dadgum payment. I need to get a tenant in here. And, all of a sudden your little IRR thing you did when you bought the property and you ran your pro forma out on you ran out the NOI and you run the whole thing out through there. All of a sudden you go, oh, that's out the window. You're just like, crap, I got to make the payment. And you forget thinking about that. And so you kind of have that same look he had when he was talking about $7,000 a minute ago, And it's, but I've been, hey dude, I did it with millions. So you're not nearly as dumb as I am. But yeah, that's where it comes from. So, the 100% debt-free works in prosperity. and it works in down times. The more debt you use, the more prosperity is required in the marketplace for you to succeed,
Sure.
because, to overcome the risk. That's all it is. And so I just decided, I'm wounded, I'm not borrowing money, period. And Joe and Susie Consumer, when I can get them 100% out of debt, their probability of walking into $1 million net worth increases dramatically. Because they're not trying, of all the 10,000 millionaires, we interviewed 10,167 millionaires in our largest study of millionaires ever done. Precisely 0 said, I became a millionaire because I borrowed all I could on my personal residence at 3%, and I parlayed that in the stock market, and it made me a millionaire. None of them said that. 0. That's bizarre. 0 said that. 0 also said, my airline miles that I got on my credit card,
That's him. That's this guy. Yeah.
So, I'm the opposite. I'm like, because I borrowed
How
money.
many credit cards do you have?
Probably 10.
What does that make you feel inside?
But they're all paid off. There's zero balance.
I couldn't resist messing with him. Was that mean? That was mean.
No, I love it.
That was mean.
I do it all the time. No, that was you're going easy.
I look at the flights that
it's
I
just because I love you, Graham.
It's okay.
It's because I love you, man.
The hotels. We booked a whole trip to Hawaii last year, all paid for.
Yeah, because you couldn't afford it otherwise.
Yeah, but it was free. It was a free trip.
Yeah, it was
That's
free.
the way I
Except
saw
you
it.
spend 12 to 18% more when you use plastic on average.
I don't think so. I am so.
I don't know. The behavior studies
Yeah.
show that.
I'm sure they
frugal.
do.
I had to buy him his iced coffee this morning, Dave. He
Did
was
you?
struggling.
I brought a coffee from the Airbnb that I made there, and I still have it in a plastic cup because I knew that I just habitually make my own coffee. Yeah. My default is don't spend money.
You are frugal.
Yeah, the default is always I'm not going to spend.
You're known
unless I
for being
absolutely have to.
cheap.
That's
or
frugal.
Is it cheap or frugal?
Cheap.
No,
Cheap.
it's frugal. Right?
I'm getting better.
You are getting better. I'm
getting
very
better.
proud of you.
If you've ever been denied a car loan, credit card, or even an apartment because of what's on your credit report, you are not alone. Most people don't even know what's hurting their credit score, let alone how to fix it. That is exactly where our sponsor DisputeBeast comes in. It's an AI-powered platform that helps you find and remove outdated or inaccurate items from your credit report fast.
We're talking things like late payments, old accounts and collections, or even accounts that don't belong to you. Not to mention, how it works is super easy. You connect your credit report and DisputeBeast scans it for negative marks that could be dragging down your score. Then it generates custom dispute letters tailored for your situation. No templates and no guesswork.
You could choose to just download the data and send it to the agencies yourself, or you can use their built-in mail service where they will literally handle everything for you.
It's honestly just really clean and simple to use, and it's built by experts.
So if you're ready to take back control of your credit, go to disputebeast.com/ICH today. There's also a link down below in the description, disputebeast.com/ICH. Guys, they will literally handle everything for you. If you're dissatisfied with your credit, they will do all of the research, let you know what's going wrong, and they will fight for you. disputebeast.com/ICH. Thank you so much to DisputeBeast for sponsoring this clip.